Good afternoon, everybody out there. This is Arjax coming at you again with another Let's Play World of Warcraft video. So, in my last video, which has only got 5 views, whatever, not a big deal. I'm doing this because it's kind of fun. And, why not? I'm going to be leveling this character anyways. So, last time I was here, this entire area was under siege by Horde. Now, that was rather annoying. Oh, I gotta choose a reward. So this one has the most, gives me the most. It gives me 6 silver as opposed to 3 from each. So that's the one I'm gonna do. So like I said before, oh shoot, I might not be, well, you know what. I'll go down here, no. Yeah, you know what? I'll hit level 9 by turning in this quest over here. Maybe it gives me another simple one. But I'm going to try to go to the next zone as soon as possible. Which I think I can get there at level 9 and actually start partaking in the quests in that area. This is actually exactly what I do every time I level a human character to level 15. I might choose to do a few different quests and such, but overall this is pretty much the exact path I take. I feel like it is the fastest way to actually get to level, yeah, I'm already here, I might as well, to get to level 15. Is my leveling progression necessarily the fastest way to level 90? No, not at all. Like I said, I've seen videos where and heard people where they've run all the way to level shoot, what is it? Level 90 in like 2 days played. This will get you, the way that I'm doing this will get you there about 4 days played. The fastest I've done it is like a day and a half played, but I used recruit a friend and leveling bonuses and all kinds of stuff that requires money and like the stars aligning just right for you to get there. Is it something that I like doing? Yeah, sure, you know, whatever. I don't dislike doing it, but at the same time, I don't necessarily want to spend a bunch of money and then get somebody that wants to level a bunch of tunes to level 80. Plus, it's really time, you know, on the character, the time slot may state that it only takes like a day and a half played, but in reality all the prep work that goes into doing something like that is a lot more intensive, and you spend a ton of time just getting everything set up for it to work out that way. Now, that being said, do I have an issue with doing that? No, absolutely not. But, you know, I'd rather just level a character without spending any money, and just go through the dungeons and everything that I really like to do. Because ultimately, this is a game, and I want to do the most fun aspect of the game in order to progress. And to me, that does not mean, you know, trying to get to level 90 as fast as possible. And, you know, that might sound counterintuitive because, you know, everybody wants end level characters, but when you, I think I have 9 level 90s, either 7 or 9, getting to level 90 really as fast as you can isn't necessarily what I want to do. Mostly because I've found that the end level content in Mist of Pandaria isn't really what I like. So, with that being said, you know, why would I, you know, rush there? Now, the reason why I am leveling so many characters and care to level so many characters to level 90 is because of the the Halloween mount reward. Now, as everybody knows, the Headless Horseman has like a 0.05% chance to drop, and I think it's out for 15 days. So that means if you had 20 level 90 characters, statistically stating, you would be able to get that drop if you ran the dungeon on every character once a day for the duration of the event. Now, I know that doesn't work out to, being 100%, obviously, because that's not the way statistics work, because you have a different drop rate. You have the same drop rates every single time you run the dungeon. So every single time you have a 0.5% chance of doing it. But with 20 level 90 characters, you would have around 200 opportunities, a little bit more, to actually get that drop. So with 200 opportunities, at a 0.5% chance, that would equal out to as many runs as you would need. Now, we'll see if I'm able to get that drop coming up this year. I hope I am. If I'm not, it is what it is, and that'll just be something I have to deal with. But it is definitely a drop that I personally really would like to get, and if I don't, admittedly, I am going to be rather disappointed. But then again, there is always next year. So, yep, I am going to be able to come over here and do this quest string, which, I really like. So, the guild that I joined last time is a whopping level 1 and not really all that great. So, you know what, I'm just going to go ahead and leave the guild, and hopefully I get recruited to another guild. I was willing to give them the EXP that I was going to get by leveling, but what it's going to do for me to stay in that guild is it's going to effectively decrease my effectiveness. So what I do here with these guys is I always give them the 2 coppers, hoping that they'll give it to me. I know you can get it the other way. It just seems to be a little faster the other way by giving them the coppers. This probably actually has no effect whatsoever on the probability. I think you have an equal probability no matter what you do. But giving them the coppers, I've already got 2. So that's what I'll do. So this area, this initial area, I find kind of fun. And I am back. Sorry, somebody messaged. But overall, me on Facebook, and I haven't really played this checking my messages all the way to completion. So in these episodes, I'm going to try to keep them to about an hour in length of uncut video. So just to see the progression. So that being said, there should be about 72 episodes in the leveling progression of this character, depending on a lot of things. So obviously, it's going to take either a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, and I'm going to show you some of the ways that I do like to level in these and what I like to do. So normally, this might actually take a little bit longer, because normally I just kind of mass level characters. Right now I have like 5 or 6 level 50s, and what I do is I just use their rested EXP and I queue a dungeon, run the dungeon. My rested EXP is normally done by then, and then I will, after I do that, I hop on to the next character, send my heirlooms there, and do the same thing. Something that I should really look into is enchanting my heirlooms, since the enchants will stay on the heirlooms while you transfer them. Back when you had only the level 1 enchants, or the enchants that didn't require an item level to do, I had all of the low level enchants that were best in slot 4 every tune, and I could enchant them myself. But since that isn't, since it isn't that way anymore, I have, I just kind of stopped enchanting altogether. I haven't really used my enchanter or got any of the stuff. I would, occasionally try and get, and like I said, this is going to be a tank, so, oh crap. That is not good. Oops. Oh well. So we'll see how much of that actually plays into doing this. I'm going to have to go respec once I hit level 15 or so. Oops. But anyways, what I was saying is when I hit level 90, I don't typically use enchants or glyphs. If I'm gonna do raids and stuff, I will go ahead and enchant that one character and glyph him and gem him. Out of all the professions, the only one I don't have at level 600 would be glyphing. And I know that a lot of people say that you can make a lot of money selling glyphs and buying and selling glyphs and making them. I just don't really like the entire process. It's kind of boring to me, and certainly I'm not the richest person in WoW, but I have a couple 100,000 gold on my main server, and now there's a couple mounts that I would like to buy, but ultimately those couple of mounts really aren't going to, I just don't feel like spending a couple 100,000 gold on a mount. I have a lot of mounts. I don't have every mount, obviously, since I'm not willing to spend a couple 100,000 on a mount. But, there was one mount that I thought was really cool, and, I have the 20,000 version of that mount, but I don't have the I think it's 110,000 gold for the mount. And, it's the yak, and it allows you to oh shoot, what is that called? Well, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it sells you the stuff. It sells you Pandarian level food, and it allows you to repair your armor, and it allows you to change the stats on your armor and weapons anywhere you can summon a mount. Now, when I first saw that, I was like, oh, awesome, that'll be awesome, and because I was leveling my first level 90 because it came out with the expansion, I was like, this is really sweet. It'd save me a whole bunch of time, and while it would save me a whole bunch of time, and the new expansion, the ability to move the stats around on your gear is going away. So had I gone out and spent that 120,000 gold or 110,000 gold on that mount, and yes, it is cool, but the 20,000 gold mammoth repairs your items, and you can sell stuff there, but you can't buy Mista Pandaria food. And how often do I use food? Honestly, I don't. It's not worth that amount of gold. And since I already have the 20,000 gold version, there's really nothing that compels me to go all the way up and invest the amount of gold that I would need in order to get that mount. It's just not worth it at all. Like, all that time and getting the gold, and granted, I don't really use gold, so it's kind of a wash point since I don't, and over time I'll just reaccumulate all the gold in that area anyways. But what happens in the next expansion? What if they release a really cool mount that does something equally as cool. Like, gives you a mount with an auction house access and a mailbox access and a mount. That would be super sweet, and I would love that. And if it costs 100,000 gold, then I would have to go out and try to get gold, which is not something I really ever want to do on this game, is try to find a way to get gold. I just don't find it appealing, really. So, that being said, you know, I'm just going to hold on to my gold. I'm not going to buy it, you know, and I thought about it for a long time, and I actually came close about a month ago, and I was talking to a friend about it, and they're like, oh, dude, that ability's going away. So you'll just have another mammoth that you can buy better food from. And while that's good, I don't think that's worth that kind of gold. And I would agree with that. So obviously, which is why I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to grab this flight pass here. Flight pass are something in this game that I think have really outlived their purpose. I don't really feel like there is much of a purpose for the flight pass anymore. They don't, you know, me personally, like, if I'm ever going to use a flight pass, which I do occasionally, what I end up doing is it's like, okay, so I need to get here, I can fly there, or I can do this and this, but the only time I ever really use it is when it's, you know, it would take like 4 or 5 minutes, and you know, I'll hop onto a flight path to take me there. It might take me a little bit longer, but basically it's like I'm AFKing on the flight path, and it's going to get me to where I want to go. Other than that, I don't really see a purpose for the flight path anymore. Something that I think would be way cooler and way more beneficial for the flight pass would be if they came out, if the flight paths were like teleportation tunnels like they do in, there's a game called Mabinagi, and it was never a flight path. But what they do is you click on them, you select where you want to go, and you're instantly transported there. Now, that would be awesome. I would use flight paths a lot more, because then they would actually serve a purpose other than, hey, I don't really want to stay logged into this account or I don't really want to fly there, so I'm going to go make a sandwich, let me click this, and have my character fly there. It'd be more of a convenient thing, but I don't think World of Warcraft's going to go there. And the reason I say that is they seem to take out a lot of the convenience factors in it. Warlords of Draenor, the expansion that's coming up, what they're actually doing is they're getting rid of flying in that zone altogether. There will be no flying. And in this expansion, they got rid of the mass summon perk for guilds, which I thought was really cool. You could summon anybody in your party to your location, which, you know, that saved a lot of time too. So it really feels like they're getting away from those convenience things. And I think part of the reason why they're doing that is they want with it taking less time to go through the content and get what you want, it encourages people to, after they're done, to just kind of, you know, log out and wait until the next expansion comes. I don't personally do that. You know, like I said, I haven't really taken that many breaks from World of Warcraft, but I definitely see the purpose behind it. I always hate these quests that make you sit there and read and stuff. And you know, I know a lot of people do play for the lore and that kind of thing. That's not really my thing. I've never really paid attention to the lore in any video game I've played, much less World of Warcraft. So it's kind of a feature that's lost on me, and having to sit here for, 15, 20, 30 seconds while trying to complete this quest. And there's another one coming up here that, is going to be that way also. I never do it, you know, and I always think to myself, I'm like, you know what, one of these times I'm going to start a character and I'm just going to do every quest, I'm going to read every line of text and do every zone all the way to completion. Well, that has never happened, and I've never even started doing that. So yep, that is what it is. So I'm level 11 now, which means that I'm only a couple of levels away from my goal. And like I said, on a high pop server, you definitely get people coming through and killing the guys you need, which kind of sucks. But I should be able to get them all on this run through the dungeon and not really have to farm them too much like you saw at the other, well, this isn't a dungeon, at the other mine, rather. So it's kind of a hit and miss thing. I don't necessarily really like high pop servers for that exact reason, but at the same time, you know, you can find more people are talking, willing to do stuff, you know, and you can make more friends on a high pop server just because there's more people to interact with. But at the same time, if you're doing quests or anything like that, doing them on a high pop server really does kind of suck, because they take forever to get quests done. Well, not necessarily forever, but sometimes it's really annoying when you're trying to get like 3 guys and you need them to drop candles or something, and there's like a bunch of people around killing them, and so you end up having to snipe kills from other people because other people are sniping kills from you, because everybody just wants to get through the quest as fast as possible. So that's my little complaint about high pop servers. So I'm gonna come back and I need 3 more fresh dirts, which are easy to get, and 4 more coyotes. So something I like to do is I'll just charge and then hit an add, and it brings me a little forward a little quicker, or at least I feel like it brings me forward a little quicker. But then it also helps if I'm going in the right direction, which obviously I was not there. So, and then, you know, other ads hitting me definitely slows me down a little bit, because I'm going to backpedal, go back, loot them for no apparent reason, and then, you know, just regularly progress. Well, since I'm doing this on a Tuesday rather than a weekend, you can see that there is a lot less people out and about, and also this area tends to slow down a little bit anyways, unlike the first zone that I brought you guys to. So honestly, I don't see a lot of competition for the materials and the ads that I need to kill coming up, so that should be good, and it should be relatively painless. I don't know how far I'm gonna get on this. My goal is level 20. Something else that I have to be aware of now is I accidentally selected Fury as opposed to the tanking class. So I'm going to have to go back and figure out how to respec at this level, since you can't dual spec yet. So that is a little annoying, and that was completely my fault. But luckily, it shouldn't be too long before I hit level 15 anyways. And so then I'm going to go back to Stormwind, which I'm sure that ability is in Stormwind. I think I just have to talk to the warrior trainer, and he will be like, oh, you're an idiot, here, let me reset that for you. So now I'm going to get a quest to go spy on people, and that quest is right over here. Maybe, yep, right here. Now sometimes this glitches, so you kind of run up and, you know, before I used to hide behind the wall. I don't know if I have to do that anymore, but I'm just going to stand in the middle and see if that works. It's not really like I'm eavesdropping anymore. this is another example of quests that you have to sit there and listen to people talk, even though you might not necessarily want to. But, you know, they seem to have gotten away from that in the progression of World of Warcraft a little bit, which I'm kind of thankful for because, you know, I honestly really do not care to sit and be forced to listen. And it's not really listening because there's no, you know, you don't hear them talk. Well, you know what? That's not very fair because I don't know if I would hear them talk or not. I'm assuming that I don't because I have my sound off. So, taunt. Oh. I might as well go ahead and set up my bars the way that I like them to be. So I'm using a Razer Naga, and it's a 17-button mouse, and as you can see here, in this one right here, I just set it up to be the same layout, and I use Shift a lot. So, you know, these are my Shift buttons, and I'm going to have them displayed the same way. Do I need to change the way it's actually laid out to use my mouse? No, not at all. But sometimes, you know, most of the time, because I set up my characters the same way, so I'm very used to using the same attacks with them, and I bind them to the same keys. So with them being bound to the same key, I find that it ends up being super easy to just swap between characters. I know some people don't like to set them up to be bound to the same key, and they like their characters to be unique and individual and special. Well, as you can see, my characters are not unique or individual in any way whatsoever because I lay them out to look the same, dress the same, and with the same name. So, you know, why do I want to set up their keybinds special? And plus, there isn't really a way to, you know, uniquely set up a character's keybind unless I spec them to be different things. Which is actually why I wanted to level as many characters as I have. Now, the downside to what I have done is I don't have a main, which, you know, might not sound like all that big of a deal, but I would really kind of prefer a main as opposed to a ton of alts, even if I couldn't get as much done as I would like. You know, if I had a main, my character progression might be a little bit farther along. Well, it certainly would be because I wouldn't have anything else to do except for progress that character. But with having a main, or with having a bunch of alts, I can farm stuff a lot more effectively, you know, like for mounts. Like if it's a raid drop, I can effectively go and run that raid a ton of times in order to progress through it. So it looks like I'm actually going to have to empty my bags here coming up. I was hoping to be able to get to level 20 before I did that so that I could just do it on my mount. But it looks like after this quest I'm going to have to go ahead and empty my bags. So as you can see here, there is competition for killing the guys that I need, and the people that I'm going to be competing with are higher levels than me. So that kind of sucks a little bit, but, you know. Thus is life in World of Warcraft on a high-pop server. I don't think I get anything from killing coyotes. So, you know, I'll kill him anyways unless he drops off me here. It's certainly not gonna slow me down all that much. I wish that I'd spec'd into tanking. I know that I'm gonna be doing a little bit more damage, and a lot of people like to, spec into DPS and then switch to tank in dungeons. Well, I kind of get away from that because of my ability to simply, run through every dungeon. And I think it only takes about 188 dungeon runs to level up to level 90. Give or take 15 or 20, I would say. And then again, I do use rested EXP, so that is something else that I do that isn't necessarily unique to me, but at the same time, it's not really feasible if you want to get a level 90 character in a week, which I certainly do not do. I don't care to, because I just have to spend way too much time playing World of Warcraft. Now, honestly, if I was to quest all the way to level 90, and people say that questing is the fastest way to do it, I probably would become a very proficient quester, which I'm not really, because, you go to a new place and you have to figure out what the question wants, and I guess if I read a little bit more, I might be more proficient at questing. But since I don't read anything, going to a new area and doing new quests takes a little bit of time. Sometimes I get hung up and can't figure out what I need to do. I don't know if anybody else has ever experienced that, but that is definitely something that happens to me, and then I have to run around and try to figure out what I'm doing wrong, what I need to do, and so on and so forth. So I find that just running dungeons, which I have leveled a ton of characters to at least level 80 by doing, is the fastest for me because I know what I'm doing, and then you get that random dungeon loot, you get drops, you can sell it, you don't have to run around, and when you log out, you're always in a city because, well, maybe not, I'm always in a city. So I'm getting rested EXP, then I don't have to take the time to run back to where I was at in order to complete the quests that I was on, or, and since I run so many characters, if I was to quest them up, I would forget where I was at on them, and that might sound kind of daft on my part, but that is certainly a reality that I would face. Is I would be like, oh, what questing area was I on with this guy? What am I doing? And so, with that being said, I definitely would fall behind a little bit. And I don't know if it would be as fast for me, because if I was leveling up a bunch of characters like that, I'd probably get bored with it. Honestly, I like dungeons because of the human interaction. Even if you don't say anything, you're playing with humans. And when you play with humans, there's an unpredictability about it. You'll get good groups, you'll get bad groups. And then sometimes, most of my friends that I've made in World of Warcraft have been through dungeons and have been on different servers, and you're like, oh wow, that's really cool. I would have never met you. You get a good group of people and you're like, oh sweet, alright, let's rock this out together. And so you do that. So I'm just gonna sell my junk here. I could sell other stuff, but selling my junk would, honestly freeze up a bunch of bag slots for me, and probably enough to get the level 20. So this quest, I have done it wrong before, and I've done it wrong recently enough to know what I did wrong. Well, and remember what I did wrong. So, on my first time through doing this, it wasn't even my first time, but my first time in a long time, I just went ahead and killed these guys. They're not even here yet, so I'll elaborate on it a little bit more. But I killed them right away from the, without getting the special suit, which definitely makes it like 15 times easier to do this because I need to get an overloaded golem. So there I go. So once I get this guy, killing these guys is super easy. Like, that guy right there is doing it the absolute wrong way. So, like, you got another guy over here going ahead and killing the golems like I am. Although it doesn't appear that I'm killing them. Oh, there you go. This is certainly way faster than doing it onesies, twosies. So I think if I run over them, I kill them too. I don't know. Yeah, so running over them is actually the faster way to do it. Certainly is. So you just run over them and they die. You're like, oh. But as you can see, you know, I'm blazing through this. Before it took me like 30 minutes to do this quest, and I was like, you know, screw questing, you know, who the heck has time to spend 30 minutes on a quest that doesn't give them nearly as much EXP as a dungeon run through? But you're kind of forced to do quests at the beginning anyways. So I guess, you know, maybe my questing experience is a little bit negative, you know, and that was how I leveled my first character, was solely through quests, and I never even ran a dungeon, you know, much less tanked a dungeon until I hit end level, because everybody was like, oh, don't worry about it, you know, just run them when you get to level, you know, it was 85 at the time. And I didn't start in Cataclysm. It may sound like it because I refer to it a lot, but I actually started back in 2004, but I took a break. Well, I just didn't really get into the game at the time. You know, I had a lot of stuff going on. I was in high school and girls and, you know, whatever. But I didn't really get into the whole World of Warcraft scene until a little bit later. So I could run all the way back in this, and he runs obviously faster than I do, but I need to kill these guys. So I'm going to go ahead and kill these guys for their items. But yeah, so I didn't actually get an end level game character until Cataclysm, and I leveled that up all the way through questing, and it might have been a little bit negative for me to do it that way because I didn't really know what I was doing. I was new to the World of Warcraft, and then in vanilla there definitely wasn't any of this helpful stuff. So like the way that I did quests was I didn't do them, and I leveled up to like level 15 I think on my first character, and with that level 15 character the way I did it was by killing like these guys, you know. It was like, what is going on? That is stupid. That is the worst idea in the world to do, is just kill low-level mobs to level. Well, it might not be the worst idea, but it certainly did not make the game fun or entertaining to me. And then I tried doing PvP with a friend, and everybody else just murked me. I didn't really know what I was doing. The friend that got me into it had no idea what he was doing either. So it was like the blind leading the blind, essentially. And it certainly was not anything that I really enjoyed. So, you know, that might be why I do most of my leveling through dungeons, You know, if I think about it, like leveling through dungeons, you know, I got a set path, I know where I'm going, and it makes it really easy. Plus, it's fun. Like, I don't know who doesn't like running dungeons. I'm sure there's people out there. You know, actually, when I wasn't a tank, sometimes I didn't really like dungeons. Because you're kind of really dependent on that tank character, and you know, you die, you have to find your way back in, and I didn't really know where I was. But, you know, since running as a tank, those issues have generally gone away in a big way, because, you know, you just have to learn. And like driving a car, for me, like if I follow somebody somewhere, I have no idea where I'm at. I have no idea how to get where I just got brought to. So, you know, tanking for me is kind of like driving a car, whereas being DPS is kind of like riding. And I've healed a couple dungeons. It's not something I really like, so it's definitely something that I've avoided. And it's not because I didn't find it fun. I found it a little bit too stressful. You know, and when I found it easy, I found it too boring. So I didn't really find like a happy medium in there. So I might not actually get to level 20 by the time this video is over, but I'm sure that I'll get into a dungeon at least, well, hopefully. I'm going to hit level 13 here, and I think level 50, I don't know for sure. So I'm opening my bag so that I can see where it pops these. So there I go. Because they're definitely an upgrade for my character. And you know what? I've had people make fun of me for upgrading my stuff as I go along like this with my heirlooms, like my friends and stuff, and they're like, why do you take so long to pick what you're doing? And I don't think I take a long time to pick what I'm going to grab. But they're like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, you take forever to figure out what you want to do. And I'm like, oh, you know. And they're like, you're in full heirlooms. Why do you even care? And I'm like, oh, well, you know. I want the best gear that comes across my path, even if it is a slight upgrade and not really all that significant. So, that is what I do. Now, I know people who have leveled solely through PvP, and I like PvP. That is definitely not the fastest way to do it, but if it's something you really like to do, then, you know, have at it. Am I gonna do it? Heck no. It takes way too long. I'm not that good at PvP either. So, I mean, I used to be good at PvP. Not so much anymore. Would it be hard for me to get back into? No. Is it something I really want to do? No, not really. I have all the PvE heirlooms as it is. So, going ahead and getting the PvP heirlooms certainly would take longer, because getting honor points is harder than getting justice points, or at least the way that I know how to do it, which is to run battlegrounds. Whereas if I run, you know, so I'd be running for justice points to convert to honor points to grab gear. And by the time I hit level 90, I'd probably be pretty good at PvP, but it would also be like 3 months. So, now I'm probably going to grab one of these I'm probably going to use one of these flight paths to get back to Stormwind. Well, I most certainly am going to use the flight path to get to Stormwind. I can't fly, and everything's pretty slow at this point. So, you know, I definitely want to get back there as soon as possible after I hit level 15 to switch over. And I'll probably pause the video and actually just cut out that flight path, because who the heck wants to watch a flight path? I don't even want to be a present on a flight path. So, let's see. Yeah, I'm probably not going to do that. You know, and I started that one. I'm probably going to abandon that. So, No attack orders. I remember I farmed this area for cloth when I was leveling up my tailoring, because I couldn't buy linen cloth. And actually, this is a very good area to farm linen cloth. But honestly, if you can buy linen cloth, because it takes way too much time. It's not worth your effort. You can go farm something else to get gold if you don't have gold. I don't know anybody who doesn't have gold, but you know, if you need gold to buy it, it's much better to go farm the gold to buy it than it is to sit here and farm these guys. But I had to farm them because nobody was selling it. Or, you know, the stuff that I did buy from there wasn't enough because I bought all of it that I could. It's kind of funny how cheap these low-level things are, but, you know, people do need them. But people use their, people just use their alts to buy it. And, you know, I certainly never save my, well, I do a little bit. I'll save, like, something if I'm new to a server and I'm like, oh, well, you know, I should at some point level a tailorer so I can make bags, which, you know, is not worth the effort for me because I can just buy bags and buy gear, you know, anything that I can make to sell, or anything that can be made to sell that I would use, I might as well just buy it because it's going to take me a lot less effort. And I can get a lot more gold by just going ahead and playing through the game normally than, you know, trying to do professions. Now, there are some professions, and if I wanted to become, like, super rich, you know, I might change my, my attitude towards making gold. But since I really don't care about being super rich and being able to buy anything I want in World of Warcraft because I have pretty much everything that I do want, I don't really need to try and figure it out. Now what I do need to do is find these hungry people because I need to feed 20 of them. Which there are none over there. It says I'm in the area, so, you know, well, it says I'm on the outskirts, so I think it's actually inside the building. Competition. So yeah, there are some. I should have probably just turned around and waited, because they are certainly already been fed. This guy doesn't look to have been fed. Oh, that is the annoying part of this is, you know, trying to complete a quest that everybody else is trying to do. And these zones really aren't big enough to support large groups of people. So this is actually the area that I found to be the best area to go ahead and just farm for cloth if you're ever in it, right here. At this mouth, they respawn super fast and you can just kill them like instantly, but it's like the biggest group of them. So unfortunately I have to kill them because they were aggroed on me. You know, actually I probably should have just ran and let them drop aggro on me. Ugh. So I might as well just wait here for 10 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and pause for, well, you know what, no, I'm not going to do that because it's going to pop up here any second now anyways. The other ones I noticed were, had 37 seconds. So that's why I'm going to go ahead and turn around, because it appears... What are you doing? Why are you not... Alright, I'll put one right by you. You used to be able to pop them down and like all three of them would come. But I guess you have to put them on top of the people now. So, well, maybe if they're sleeping, you have to put them on top of them. There I go. Now I'm actually gaining some progress in this. And then one more group and I shall be done with this quest. I really don't like questing. In case you guys haven't got that point, like, questing is not my thing. So, like, I like doing dungeon quests, surprisingly. But I mean, it's straightforward. You run through and you do them. There's a whole world out here to get lost on and make wrong turns. In a dungeon, you can't really make that many wrong turns. Well, there are some that you can. There's like these huge world ones. But, you know, there isn't that many of them. And, you know, it's very simple to get through them. So, let's see. I should cap the 14 here, and 15 should be fairly shortly after that. So, there I am comparing a couple copper and items. It's like, what are you doing? Why would you even do that? Well, it's a habit that I got into. Is it a good habit? No, not really. Because in the time that it takes me to do that, I could get way more gold by actually just doing stuff. So, alright. So I guess I'm gonna have to go all the way down. Last time that I leveled a character, I did a couple PvP matches, just to break up the monotony of running dungeons, or not running dungeons, running quests. So actually, this zone right here was the last one I went to. So these are going to be not necessarily new, but not fresh quests in my mind. So I'm actually just going to cut the video here to make it a little bit shorter, and you certainly don't need to see me run. Alright, so I'm on my way back, and I ran and just punched this guy in his face. So now we're actually going to dive in. So I need to kill Respawn Mastix, Task Slayer, and Django. So let's go ahead and start killing these guys. And actually, the farther you get along in your questing, the less you'll see people. I've noticed, until like level 85. At level 85, you'll definitely see more people. But before that, like, as you progress, you'll see less and less people. I think there is a definite trend in World of Warcraft for people to start leveling characters and to stop. Oh, one exception to that is around level 60. You will see a ton of Death Knights. And, you know, I heard a very funny joke about Death Knights the other day. It is, what does a prostitute and a Death Knight have in common? They're both cheap, easy, and spread diseases. I thought it was hilarious. But, you know, you may not find that hilarious. And my delivery method for jokes is definitely not pristine. It's not awesome. So, alright. So now I just have to kill some more Taskmasters. And, you know, I will definitely target those out as opposed to this big group of people that I just did. Because this is definitely slowing me down a little bit. Even though that there was one Taskmaster in there, it's definitely not the fastest way to do anything, is jump into the middle of ads to grab one that you need. Especially since, well, there's one right there. But And they don't give all that much EXP, especially not rested. If I was rested, it would be like 200 EXP per kill at this point, but it's not. So, and I only need 2 more, so there's 1 more right there. Taunt him to me, just to get him over here, save my running while I DPS this guy down. And then I'm going to need to find Django. But in doing so, I summoned the River Mystic as well, which is fine, absolutely fine. Something that you can absolutely see in this is, up until this point, you haven't seen me come anywhere near dying, and I don't play particularly cautious with my character. Now, that is for the simple fact that heirlooms are very overpowered in this game. And I kind of enjoy it because I definitely do not enjoy foot slogging through World of Warcraft. I want my mount, I want it now. I'm a very impatient kind of person. And I'm almost 50% to level 15 anyway, so I'm not going to be doing much running around anymore on this character. Probably never will. Honestly, I have so many characters that I can do stuff with. After I actually get him to level 90, he's probably going to run a couple dungeons, get geared up somewhat, and then he's going to go back to, oh crap. I have to run all the way back there? Alright. But after I level him up, he's going to just become a level 90 tank that, you know, I probably will never use again except for on Halloween. You know, or if there is a mount in a low-level dungeon that I want to farm, I might pop him out there, or outside of it, you know, like if it only drops on heroics, just drop like 7 of my tanks there that can solo it, run them through once a day to try to farm it. That is definitely something that I will do. Not necessarily not necessarily is it, you know, the most honest way to get a mount, but I mean, if you have a bunch of level 90s, you know, and you want a certain mount that drops, might as well run it. The one thing that I didn't like about the change of the enchanting, well, I mean, overall it was an awesome change. It was super, you know, it's super easy to enchant your heirlooms now, and as they become more and more common, it's definitely convenient. But the one thing that I definitely will have to say that I did not appreciate about it is that I spent a ton of time farming specifically for the enchant drops for heirlooms. And not because I was cheap either. Like, I would have more than happily paid a few hundred gold per enchant. But the reality of the situation was there was not that many people enchanting them. So when I went there to buy them out of the auction house on my server, it was almost always never there. So what I ended up doing was, you know, I leveled up and was able to grab, I was able to go ahead and just simply grab those enchants and make them for myself, but I made a lot of gold in enchanting them and putting them on the auction house. I mean, like 15 to 20,000 gold a week. And you know, when it came out and they dropped it so that they did not affect you anymore in the same way, like now you can pretty much put anything on there. And I don't know if they've ever even came out and said, hey, this is best in slot again. So I guess now I have to make a decision of where to go. So I guess I'm going to run back all the way over there again. So this is part of what I hate about questing. Like, I'm only roughly about 3,000 EXP away, and to get another quest I have to run all the way over here. So, meh. Alright, I'm going to cut until I get there. Alright, welcome back everybody. So yeah, I just ran over here. I killed a few things on my way. So now I'm only a few thousand EXP away. So that is definitely favorable. These guys do not appear to give me any EXP. So let's see. So I think I have to go in here and do this. I don't know where I'm going. No idea where I am going. So yeah, enchanting, I used to be able to make a lot of gold just on low-level enchants. And some of the items to make the enchants were, you know, you couldn't buy on the auction house, not because you can't buy them, but because nobody ever had them on the auction house. So then I was definitely making advantage of my tank in a big way. So I think I just stand here and it's one of those other cutscenes. So we'll see. I definitely don't like this view. It kind of makes me sick a little bit. It's like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? So, that, oh, yep, I was correct. So, I'm going to try to jump down here without dying. It appears like I can. So, I'm actually going to turn this off because I don't like it. And then I run back over to this other guy. These mercenaries do a fair amount of... Oh. That Cyclone does a lot more damage than the mercenaries. So... just avoid the Cyclone. I don't think you can kill it. You might be able to. I don't know, I've never tried. So this guy gives me the quest. And then I get a new quest. And that quest is... run all the way back. Alright. See you guys when I get there. Okay, so welcome back and welcome to my time skip that I wish I could do and obviously I can't. So turn these in and get more. Oh, actually, screw that. I'm done. So I just hit level 15, which means that I can start running dungeons after I respec. So, I'm going to run the Stormwind and cut out of here for a second, because you don't want to watch Flight Pass. Okay, so I just did, I just upgraded my talent tree, or talent, to be protection, so that I can run some dungeons. I'm going to sell some junk out of my inventory to clear some room for it, and then we're going to queue for our first random dungeon in this, and probably maybe 2 before this video is out. We'll see how fast it goes. As you can see at level 15, I don't get any AoE, I don't think. No, it does not appear like I get AoE. Why did I not? There you go. Defensive stance, execute, shield slam. Nope. So this is one of the disadvantages of a warrior tank, and I'm just gonna pause right now and wait for it to pop up. I'm going to keep my warrior in this area until I hit level 20 to get my mount, because, you know, why run all the way back? So, yep, hold on, I'm going to pause till it queues. So that queue time was abnormally long for me. I don't know if it's just at the time of the day or what, but I was queued for like 5 minutes. So I explored a little bit of trade chat. Not something I normally do, but heck, I'm standing around doing nothing. Now, while I stand around and do nothing, we have to wait for DPS to queue in, who most certainly had a longer queue time than me and is probably AFK, and as you can see here, has less than a second to re-queue, so maybe, oh, well, I got lucky. Oh, no. For all these people that queue in, it's like, why the heck does it take you so long to click the accept button and jump in? The thing that I think is the worst is I think some of these people have like an add-on that automatically accept the group, which, you know, by itself is whatever. But the fact that they don't actually jump into the group is super annoying. So they'll like queue in, come into the beginning, and just sit there. I'm assuming that's what it is. Maybe they have a bad computer or something and it takes them forever to load in. But, you know, after I've been in a dungeon for 5 minutes or so, I will go ahead and initiate a vote kick on that, because, you know, as easy as these dungeons are, I really don't feel like it's my job to sit there and, you know, go through and tank all this and let them, you know, just soak up all that free EXP that we're going to get from killing these mobs. And it's pretty decent. I mean, we down these guys super fast, and you get like 100 EXP from each, which, you know, at level 90, obviously, you're not going to get any EXP from running these low-level dungeons, and you can pull the whole thing by yourself. But what you will do is... oh, shoot. So this is the downside about being a warrior and tanking from the beginning, is there is absolutely no AoE for you to pick up these guys. It is super annoying because, you know, you can't, it's hard enough to keep AoE at this level, but it makes it a lot worse when you can't just, you know, target them all, which is something, which is a key reason why I really like the monk in especially these lower level dungeons, is because they already come equipped with pretty much everything you need to tank a dungeon in their brewmaster class. So, you know, I have to be, actually in these, like, this first dungeon here is going to be one of the ones where I have to pay attention a lot more to aggro than any others coming up here. But as you can see, it's still fairly easy. So there's nothing really to worry about. The only thing I have to worry about is we do have a hunter in here, and it appears that he does not have his pentant on, which is super nice. I actually made a video for hunters explaining how to turn off your pentant. I did this because it was like a level 85 dungeon or something, and I'm in there, and this guy just, his pet just constantly taunts off me, and I'm like, WTF, why do you have your pet taunt on? And he's like, no, I don't. And then I was like, yes, you do. And he's like, well, how do I turn it off? So I was just like, okay, I will tell you how to turn off your pet taunt. And so I went through there and did that, and then in the next dungeon I had the exact same thing happen. And I'm like, are you kidding me right now? Like, this is not a super hard thing to do, to turn off your pet taunt. Like, where are these people? Where do they come from? How do you not know how to turn off pet taunt? So I just went ahead and made a video explaining to them how to turn off their pet taunt, so that I didn't have to, you know, if it comes to it again in the future, I can just be like, hey guys, check out my YouTube page, and just click a little button and be like, hey, there you go. You can come and see my YouTube page, and I got a video explaining to you how to turn off your pet taunt. You know, nothing against hunters. We've all been there. Anybody who's played a hunter, you're like, oh, how do I do this? Same thing with any World of Warcraft class, really. You know, you always there's always that like little bit of growing pain there. And I certainly don't know all classes perfectly, even though I do have a character of level 80 of each class, at least level 80. Obviously, I have higher levels than that. But you know, there's some classes I just I never really got into. For example, since I do tank so much, I obviously, all of the tanking classes, except for Death Knight, are at level 90. I have a Death Knight at level 85, and he's twinked out at level 85. And so, you know, I just keep him there to help tank people through. If there's a character, if a friend of mine's like, hey, you want to help me level my character from level 80 to 90, I'll be like, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. And so then I'll hop on my Death Knight and just tank him through a bunch of dungeons. And he does insane DPS, and he tanks like a champ at level 85. I mean, I think his average gear score is like 450 at level 85, which is higher than some people I've seen in dungeons at level 90. So, you know, he is definitely geared out. And so, you know, even though I could probably like just power level him to level 90 really quick, I've just elected to keep him at 85 because, you know, my wife and I used to play World of Warcraft. She's kind of got away from it, unfortunately. I'd really like her to come back to it, but she's got a ton of characters at level 80. So if she ever comes back and is like, hey, I want to play World of Warcraft, then I will at least have a character that can get her to 85. And then from 85 to 90, I think is one of the fastest leveling progressions. Or, I wouldn't say fastest, but it's a leveling progression that I don't mind so much. And, you know, most of the time I will run dungeons through it, but since that there are so few dungeons to run at level 85 to 90, I tend to actually do more quests in that area. And I don't mind the quests. A lot of quests I do mind, like I've said before, I don't really like. But that is, you know, the Pandarian quests I actually don't hate. I can't say that I really like them, but I don't hate them. So, you know. But I'm about an hour played right now, and for this guide. So I went from level 8 to 15 in an hour. You know, it might not be an hour recorded because I did cut out some of the monotonous runs. I just stopped recording. So, but even with that said, I'm going to go ahead and get to level 20 because, you know, why not? I can actually run dungeons, and getting to level 20 at this point isn't going to be painful. Not nearly as painful as getting from level 1 to 15. And I'm kind of, you know, I'm kind of enjoying running dungeons with Warrior. I have other warriors I could run dungeons with, but I don't want to hop on and run dungeons with them at the moment. I just kind of want to get to level 20 on this guy. Because getting to level 20 was my goal for this video, so we'll go ahead and do that. So this dungeon, I think they remade this for a higher level, but I don't know. I don't know for sure. So I'm pretty sure they did. I remember running this at a high level, and I hadn't run it for a long time, and I was like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And I remember wiping on this, and I don't think I have ever wiped on this boss at this low of level. Maybe it was a challenge mode, I don't know. But yeah, so this boss is obviously very simple. At this level anyways. You just kill these guys, then you activate the boss, and then you DPS them down. And I feel like in my dungeoning guides, that's how most dungeons are. You know, I ran back through them, and I remembered them being a lot harder. And, you know, obviously I didn't always have full heirlooms, so they were harder for me. But once I got full heirlooms, I've really noticed that I constantly say, well, this dungeon is very simple. This boss guy is simple. Just go ahead and DPS him down. And there are definitely things to be aware of in these dungeons, but overall, you know, it with the heirlooms, like I've said, it's just straight DPSing them down. And if you are a tank, you really owe it to yourself and the group to go ahead and get full heirlooms. There is no reason for you to be a tank and tanking these dungeons without full heirlooms, or at least some. Especially the guild ones, like the guild heirlooms, like the what are they? The helm, the cloak, and the pants. There is absolutely zero reason why you should not at least have those. I think it's like a total of 5,000 EXP, and if you ever make another character, you know, if you're just looking at making one alt and running them, I would still even then suggest getting the guild heirlooms. I mean, it's like 6,000 EX or 6,000 gold or something. I don't know for sure. I mean, I bought mine so long ago, but you never, you just constantly use them. And even for one character, I feel like it's worth it. Even if, you know, the time you're going to save, I think it's like 25 EXP. So you're going to level to level 9 or to level 80, or no, to level 85 in 1/4 the time that it's going to take you to traditionally level to level 85. So that in itself is kind of worth it. Now you can be like, oh, well, I can buy like purples and, you know, get all kinds of this cool stuff on the auction house. Well, and yes, that is true, and you can probably spend less money doing so, but the trade-off is going to be in the time. Spending the time to go and find the gear for your character or crafting it, getting the crafting supplies, looking through your guild bank for gear for your level and your class, like, yeah, absolutely very doable things. It might save you gold, but what you're going to end up doing is you're going to spend way more time doing that than if you would just simply spend the money on the heirlooms. Now I have a really awesome heirloom guide out there for you guys if it's your first character and you're just coming up to, and you're just, you know, you're just now getting into World of Warcraft, and if you are, welcome to the party. But, you know, even at level 5, if you want to spend the time to get the heirlooms, you could heirloom out a character, completely heirloom out a character in like 1 or 2 days. Is it going to be enjoyable? No, not really. I mean, you're going to spend a lot of time doing the same thing over and over and over again to get the heirlooms. But I think it's worth the time sink, to be honest, to get the heirlooms, because you only need to get them once, you know. And especially with Warlords of Draenei coming out, and they're going to create a page like your mount page for you guys for heirlooms. I don't know if it's just going to be heirlooms or if it's going to be bind on account. If it's bind on account, that'll be sweet. Oh, what did I do there? I did not mean to do that. But even with just heirlooms, I kind of hope it's all bind on account items, because that would be super sweet, and then you can just pull them off whenever you want them. But now the only downside to that is I don't know exactly like what's gonna happen. Like, are you gonna have infinite copies for like all your characters that you can pull from, or is it gonna be like a storage system? I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see, and maybe some people already know because they're in the betas. Well, I'm not in the beta, so I do not know. Me being not in the beta kind of sucks. I really wanted to be in the beta this time. You know, I was in the beta for Mist of Pandaria, and I'll tell you honestly, I spent maybe 20 minutes in the beta play area. Now, that was like a super waste for me. And the reason I got into the beta was because I don't remember why or how I got into the beta, but I got a beta key, and so I could play it but I never ended up doing it. Part of the reason I didn't was because I found out that if you play on the beta, you can't keep your characters, and I didn't really have a lot of characters, and I was really into PvP at the time and progressing my hunter, which is still at level 85, but I was just so not into doing PvP or doing anything other than PvP, so I didn't really do it. Now, when you know, pretty much I have all the characters that I could ever want at level 90. Well, actually, that's not true because I want 20, but I'm not going to get 20 for the event. I really don't have a real strong desire to level any more characters. You know, I'm doing the dungeoning guides, and I'm doing this for the requests out there, but overall, I am more than happy to go and explore new content before it comes out. And I think it would be really awesome because then I could, you know, really get a strong grasp of what the new content's going to be like. I could start coming up with video ideas to help you guys out there. And, you know, just really delving into it. But I do not have that beta key. So, you know, and honestly I haven't tried to get it. So, and with college right now, it's probably a good thing because I'd probably, you know, figure out, like, try to figure out the best way to get to level 9, or I think they're going to level 100, you know. So, but, you know, one question I'd like to have answered, and, you know, if I search long enough, I could probably find the answer to it, but I haven't found it yet, so I haven't really asked it yet either. But yep, I will just spend my time, you know, recording dungeons for you guys, finding out what's going on, and if there's, you know, anybody asks me a question, I'll do my best to answer the question and get the best answer for you guys. So, one thing a lot of people think is that this right here was the end. I've had, like, groups just, like, disappear right after this. So, this guy right here you gotta grab to get your little bag. Shoot. I am coming to the point where I need to start selling stuff on the auction house and get rid of my stuff. So, let's see, did I get any gear that I could use? Yep. There we go. So, we'll go ahead and we'll see if anybody else wants to queue up. No, it does not appear that they wanted to. Alright. So, you know, I could have probably queued with the DPS and the DPS would have queued with me, but overall it'll take a little bit longer to queue with the DPS. So let's see what happens here. Alright, instant queue. That's what I like to see. So we'll see if we can get to level 20 in this dungeon, and if not, I'm going to just go ahead and call the video for now. And again, we get a DPSer not wanting to click in. So they got about 15 seconds before they're going to get kicked, and we're going to get put back into the queue. Alright, so we click back in, and it appears a DPSer is not wanting to click in. So we'll wait another 30 seconds. I'm going to cut the video and wait till I actually get a good queue. So that DPSer actually did click in. So that is a nice change. That is one of the things that actually irritates me. I don't know why it irritates me so much, but it just was like, oh wow, if you're going to sit there and queue for something for so long, please go ahead and click in when it pops up. So this dungeon right here, you have the serpent blooms, and I will grab them when I see them. But something I do try to do, and I've mentioned this before, is I try to go ahead and let people that are not running as a tank go ahead and pick them up. The reason why I do this is fairly simple and fairly honest. It's just, I know I'm going to run this dungeon at least one more time before I get out of this area, and when knowing that makes me, as a DPS, and everybody else in here other than the tank and maybe the healer, everybody's going to be scrambling to get all the needed quest items for them. Me, I'm not gonna worry about it too much, and the reason I'm not gonna worry about it too much is it's just not gonna matter all that much. So I don't know what that. Oh my god. So that DPS just pulled Crash. Crash used to be one of my favorite guys to kill because when you kill him, he does drop this pretty awesome shield. Once they came out with the Bind on Equip shield, it didn't really matter as much anymore. But before that, one of the biggest challenges I had as a paladin or a warrior was to find that shield, to find a shield at low levels. I know that if you do quests, they'll give them to you, but I would level up through quests so freaking fast that in zones, I would never get a shield. So I'd go to the auction house or even just buy a cheap shield for these dungeons coming in here, and it was a huge bonus. So since nobody ran over here to grab this flower, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull it. I don't know why it's not working. So they do not know where they're going. That was not meant to be cap locks, but it was nonetheless. So I'm gonna go ahead and warn them that they're being recorded, just so that they know. Some people don't like it, and if they don't like being recorded, I don't put the video with them on the channel. Now I did that more so in the dungeon guides, because I could just edit it out and stuff, but whatever. On this, I don't know what I'm really going to do. And apparently the caster really doesn't like the fact that he's being recorded, and I don't really care about that with him. Kind of irritated me. He just honestly was pulling stuff that he shouldn't have been pulling, and obviously he doesn't know where he's going in this dungeon, because he just started pulling stuff out of order that you're going to kill anyways. So, I've kind of got these dungeons down to a streamlined purpose, so it doesn't take me that long to run through the entire dungeon, or, to show people how to run through the entire dungeon, which is more of the point. Because as a tank, I feel like everybody's kind of learning from you and learning your method of running a dungeon. And, sometimes I've had DPS being like, hey, how do you do this? And blah, 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 blah. So, I've had it out. So Penefield doesn't really appreciate level 20 dungeon guides, apparently. But you know what? Apparently that is not his cup of tea. It is whatever. You know, I'm not going to get offended that he doesn't like it, and it certainly is not going to bother me. I'm not going to play into his trolling behavior, because that is most certainly what he's doing. So, you know, and see that rogue right there? He's running to go grab that, which is completely fine. So, going to let him grab those because I don't need them. Well, you know, I do need them, but it's not going to affect me all that much. Because, you know, and there, you know, normally there is enough for everybody in the dungeon to grab them, but that is that. So, you know, and like I said, if nobody goes to grab it, I'll grab it. He was running towards it, so obviously he still needs his. So I'll just go ahead and let them grab it. So I said I wasn't going to buy into the trolling. I lied. I bought into it a little bit, and I'm going to troll him back. So it doesn't appear that other people saw this one, so I'm just going to go ahead and grab it for my second one. Oh, and I missed an ad there. Oh well. So yeah, there's a lot of times I catch Guff in dungeons with, like, I don't even know why. They're kind of idiots, and that's fine with me. So this is something that I do. I'll teleport out of the dungeon, and I'm going to teleport right back to it, and it's going to skip a lot of the running. And it's going to make it so that I'm back where I need to be faster. There is a place to jump down, but, you know, I've just found that this way is a little faster. Either way, you're going to hit Kresh. Either way, but well, what is he? The Warlock? Already hit him, so it doesn't really matter. So we already killed him. And as you can see, everybody else in the group is way far behind. And so that is that. Oops, wrong way. Doesn't matter. They can catch up a little bit. So yep, but as you can see, if you teleport in and out like that, you're definitely going to increase your ability to progress through the dungeon quickly. Most of the time I would go ahead and let them know, but since we got a bunch of people that think that they know what they're doing in here, we'll just go ahead and let them think that. So the hunter here is actually being pretty decent DPS in the fact that, you know, he waited until the boss for me to pull the boss, which isn't something that a lot of DPS have been doing at these low levels. And you know, even if it's a low-level dungeon, I strongly encourage people to do play their roles. But oh crap, where the hell is healer? Oh, the healer left. I don't know why. It's been pretty easy so far. But maybe they didn't like the conflict that the warlock brought into the dungeon. And I can't blame them. I don't like the conflict either. It he's just being mean for no real reason. Just kind of being one of those like typical bullies for no reason in a dungeon. And obviously, like, there isn't anything to really complain about, and he's just he's not doing his role, obviously, and pulling stuff out of turn. I could sit here and initiate a vote kick, but it's not, who cares? And if I really wanted to, I would, and I would like wait. But ultimately, what it's going to do is it's going to slow down the group, and it's not going to be worth it. To get rid of an annoying person, it might be good for him to get vote kicked and realize that being an idiot is not acceptable in a dungeon and not acceptable behavior while interacting with people. But I'm not here to teach people how to behave. Sometimes I will, but overall, just not really worth it. So there's another serpent's bloom up there in the corner. I would, I'm gonna grab it unless somebody else wants to grab it. So the rogue wants it, so I'm gonna let him grab it. That is something I always do. And you know what? The reason why I started recording low-level dungeons for people, and mostly I did it for myself, because you know what? When I was a low-level tank, I didn't have a clue what I was doing, and I looked for videos, and since I started doing these, I found a couple, but no like concrete place for every dungeon to go and get that information. So this is one area right here that you got to be aware of in this dungeon. It's kind of silly. I don't know why they made this jump thing, but I have definitely fallen down before, and a lot of times, I'll just put the auto run feature on and go ahead and do that. But yep. So let's see if we can get him kicked. Now, see, he's pulling so that you can initiate the vote kick, which is fine because there's going to be a big gap here in between fight scenes where you could possibly get him vote kicked. And you know what? I'm going to try because he's kind of irritating me at this point. Nobody appreciates being mocked or being as a tank, I really don't like people going ahead and pulling out of turn. And especially, if I had an AoE right now, I probably wouldn't mind as much as I do right now. But since I don't have an AoE attack, unless I've missed it, which, I'm looking right now, and it doesn't appear that I've missed my AoE attack. I was a little concerned that I missed it before because I switched over. But no, I haven't actually missed my AoE attack. So I just don't have one at this moment in time. So, and then again, I'm going to teleport out of the dungeon, teleport back in. It cuts down time, and even though nobody else is doing it, I could definitely, suggest it to people. The hunter did it that time. Oh, crap. So nobody else decided to kick him, which is fine. I'm not too worried about it. So I'm going to go ahead and start this event, even though most of the people aren't up here yet. I can definitely do it, not by myself, but for the most part. And they should really be over here. I think they're going to spawn some guys right here, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, wow. Nobody is here at all. And so, yeah, I could do that by myself. But yep, overall I would say that this dungeon success was kind of subpar. We had people fighting out a turn, doing all kinds of stupid stuff. With that being said, we still were fairly successful in the run. They went ahead, and while I was clearing those guys that were necessary to clear to get to this point, they were going over and attacking those, and luckily, I was able to pull it off. But this guy right here ran by the fight and didn't DPS and just went straight off into his own little world. So we'll go ahead and try to kick him again. But, yeah, whatever. This boss battle is very, very simple. And like I said, I'm not going to cut out a lot of this irritating stuff that happens for me. You know, we're playing WoW, and this is the reality of playing World of Warcraft. You get people that are douchebags. And you know what? Maybe I was a douchebag. I don't think I was. So, you know, and, you know, that's another thing that comes with people running full heirlooms. And this guy's not even running full heirlooms. They get cocky and they're aggravating. They're like, "Oh, I don't have to play my role because I have full heirlooms. I do all this DPS," and it's like, no, you still got to do your thing. And obviously, it's not going to cause us to wipe at these levels. But you know, why are you gonna? You know, these are the training levels to get used to your classes. And by having these guys, you know, by him not doing this, you know, I'm going to say that he probably has a level 90 character and just running a warlock because he wants to do, you know, he wants to PvP with it, he wants to do something else with it, I don't know. Disenchant there, I could get 3 gold. I don't really know why. So, but yep, I am done with interacting with that idiot for now. So, but yeah, that concludes this episode of Playing with Arjax. Obviously, there was a little bit of growing pain there, and the next time, it's probably going to be all dungeons all day, and grabbing some other random junk. But you know what? Have a great day. Arjax out.